Awesome. Well, let's get started. First of all, thank you everybody for joining back. It's been about 3-4 years almost now. Time flies since we had our last meetup, which we used to have them in person before COVID started and everything, and we stopped during the COVID, and right now I think it's time to get started again. So again, welcome everybody. Just for the people that are here for the first time, we're trying to keep everything as light as possible and as open as possible. Discussions are just encouraged. So at least through kind of like our presentations, unless we have a speaker that has slides and everything set up, most of our presentations are going to be discussion based. So throughout what I'm going to show tonight, don't worry that you interject or stop me. Just come on in and ask the questions. So we're not going to wait until the end for the questions. Basically, thank you so much, Ansel and his company. Well, I'll let him introduce himself and tell a little bit about the Zoom call and kind of like how they're helping us with the meetup. And then David and then Jay, if you're around, kind of introduce yourself. We usually, for the in-person events, we were having everybody introducing themselves. I'm not sure exactly how many people we have here tonight, but
18 right now.
18. We might be able to do a quick introduction. Everybody after our kind of like meetup, people are gonna do their introductions. Everybody that wants to, it's welcome to say a few words about themselves, and let's get started. Okay, so Ansel.
Yeah. Hello everyone. My name is Ansel Tang. So I'm the CTO of a company called Boodle.ai. And we proudly sponsor the Zoom call for this event. And what we do is we call ourselves an enriched analytics company. Basically, we use AI machine learning techniques to help nonprofit organizations to do fundraising more effectively. And recently, with we saw this incredible adoption of ChatGPT, and it occurred to us this is actually a great way for our users to interact with the insights we have. So we have actually decided to fully embrace this technology and make ourselves a so-called middle layer AI company. In other words, we'll be using the GPT language model, but we overlay with the proprietary insights we have over the population of the entire United States. So you can now query things like, hey, can you tell me who are likely to donate to my organization in California, and what's their income level, and how much are they likely to donate? So we got all those proprietary insights, and now you can kind of interact with in natural language. I think that's a great combination. So if you're interested in what we do, I'll put that in the chat about this new direction. We really welcome all of you to sign up on our waiting list. And we actually are taking we call a radical transparent approach. We're still developing, but we're actually sharing what we do, how we arrive at this thinking, and the challenges we encountered along the way, all in the blog post on a daily basis. So you're all welcome to kind of follow us on this journey. Thank you.
Awesome. So David, if you want to say a few words.
Hi, I'm David Harnick Shapiro. I'll give you guys a little bit of background about this group. It started as, well, okay, it actually started as Jay and Anton hanging out and having a chat. But for the rest of us, it started as a meetup. And we did eventually actually become an official local special interest group of the Association of Computing Machinery, the AI special interest group. And so I'm one of the officers for that. And so I'm a good person to get in touch with if you want to get more involved in the organization, be able to have some input on future topics, or just be helpful, or get stuff to put on your resume. An easy way to get to me would be just going through the Meetup page, but I can make myself more accessible if you need. And I'm going to let one of our other officers introduce herself really quickly.
Hi, my name is Beth Harnick Shapiro, and I'm one of the officers that's sort of holding things together while we get everything off the ground. Just some background. I actually am a Unit 18 faculty member at UC Irvine, and also an adjunct faculty member at Cal State Fullerton. So both North and South County are covered. And obviously, in both positions, I'm working with the School of Engineering. And so AI is a emerging conversation topic that students are actively interested in now. So I can get them very excited. And so hopefully there are a few students on the call today. We tried to promote this to some of the local student chapters. So try and see if we can get some groundswell of engagement.
I think you're up, Jay.
Okay, hopefully I couldn't get my my camera to work, so hopefully the microphone is working.
It is.
Okay. So yeah, Anton and I started this a few years ago after we took a data science boot camp together, and we just meet at coffee and talk about AI, and we wanted to bring more people into it, so we started the meetup, and that went pretty well, I thought. And now that people are starting to kind of do things, you know, meetings in person and stuff like that, the ACMs started doing their meetings in person. We started talking about doing stuff again. I think Anton and I have been talking. He's actually in Hawaii, so he cannot do things in person. So I think we're going to do a bit of a mixed where he's going to do some remote stuff. I'll probably in the summer do some talks like in person meetups. And I think that's kind of the plan. And I think we'd like to get any feedback from anybody, any sort of topics that you're interested, definitely anybody that would like to present either remotely or in person, please let us know. So I think that's about it for me.
Okay, awesome. So if anybody else wants to introduce themselves for a little bit, just unmute yourself and just kind of go ahead, please. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Mandy He. I am right now doing some research at Cal State Long Beach. I'm doing research regarding ML, deep learning, and reinforcement learning on cybersecurity side. So I'm very interested in the technical side of I use OpenAI for its reinforcement learning, for its environment, setup environment. I'm interested in learning OpenAI's ChatGPT, how to use the API, etc. Thank you for the opportunity to learn.
It's going to be a pretty light presentation, but hopefully it's going to be useful. So I just wanted to get us started again. So, okay,
Sounds good.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Paul. My background is in software QA engineering, I'm currently in between jobs. I was hoping to learn more about AI.
That's perfect. Thank you. We're going to start having more in-depth presentations once we kind of get started again. So, perfect. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Avinash Gokhale. I'm retired, but I'm doing some research in deep learning application for cancer diagnosis. And it's very, very, very hard, I tell you that.
I can
That's
imagine. Perfect.
So yeah, things that
you.
are hard to do make really good presentation topics.
That's true.
Very, very hard, very hard. But anyway, my interest, I'm retired, but I'm still working on that.
Great.
Hi, my name is Jay. I'm a physicist. Just want to learn from you guys about the updated information on AI. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for being here.
Hello, this is Sergio Angeli. I'm a computer engineer. I work in IoT space. I don't have much experience in AI. And I would really like to thank Anton and all the group organizers for starting these meetings again.
Well, welcome back.
I was missing them. Thank you.
We have a couple more minutes for introductions. If anybody else wants to jump in.
Hi, I'm Roanna. I'm a web developer and educational game developer, but I'm interested in AI and ML and learning more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, if there is nobody else, then I guess I can get started. And just kind of let me introduce myself too. My name is Anton Vasilescu. I'm a data scientist, Python developer, and like Jay and everybody else mentioned, we started this meetup a few years back as a place for everybody to learn. So hence here we are again, trying to just kind of open it up to more people through both online presentations and in-person presentations. So for now, me being in Hawaii, it's a little bit harder to be in person, but hence the web presentations. So kind of like without further ado, tonight I wanted to just kind of make a quick overview on the interface, how to interface through an API to OpenAI. I'm pretty sure that everybody's familiar with ChatGPT and being able to just go to the chat and type whatever you wanted to type, a prompt, and get an answer back. So that's one of the options that OpenAI kind of like gives us. The other way is to access to the API, and through the API, there are actually a lot more things that we can access. So if we look here under the documentations, or actually let's look at the API reference, you have these models that are for the completions and the chat. So the completions were the original ones with a little bit kind of like older models, and then the chat interface, it's pretty much slowly replacing the completions. It's more powerful, and it allows you access to both the GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is their cheapest model and quite powerful, as well as the GPT-4. And then you can also work with, you can do edits. Again, this is a little bit of an older model. Then you can also work with images. You basically have access to DALL-E through this interface. Then you can also work with embeddings. and which I think it's quite an amazing thing. And then also they have the Whisper model that's open through the API, and you can actually, you'll see in the presentation a little bit, I'm gonna do some speech to text and translation a little bit. And then this other kind of like the files, fine tunes, moderations, and engines, we're not going to cover tonight. They're a little bit more kind of like specialized, but I'm just going to go over what they're doing. So the files allow you to upload local training files to pretty much their cloud. And that way it's this way you're allowing access through when you're doing fine tunes for files. For fine tunes you would use training file, and so they kind of like working hand in hand. Then moderations are more in the sense of you can pass it through to see if it's basically if the text violates OpenAI's content policy. So it's like a classifier. There's just pretty much like a first line of defense against kind of like offensive content. And then engines, these are kind of like older non-fine-tuned models that they've also deprecated. So that's pretty much what you can do through the API, which is a lot more than the ChatGPT. So like I said before, if you guys have any questions, please stop me and ask the question. It's a lot better that way. And that way I'm kind of like aware that everybody's on the same page, and it makes it more kind of like interactive in a way.
So, and one quick question.
Yes.
So the API access is you have to pay for it, right?
Yes, that was my next step. So in order to access the API, also to access GPT, the ChatGPT Plus, you need to pay. There are two individual things. So the ChatGPT Plus, I think it's $20 a month, and you pay for it. And my initial thought was like, okay, I'm getting that one, and because I set up my payment, I'll also be able to access the API. But no, it doesn't work that way. You'll have to actually set up billing for specifically ChatGPT. Not ChatGPT, sorry, the one for ChatGPT and this another one for the API.
Hey,
Anton,
yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was able to use the API with the free version of ChatGPT without any billing, without any.
Which endpoints? Because a lot of these ones.
Yeah, I don't think I saw all that on the left, all those options there, but.
Okay.
I just found a web page that there was a tutorial on how to do something with the API, one exercise, and I was able to enable and use it. And
so
that was free.
Okay, because any call to like through the GPT-4, I think it's like 6 cents per 1,000 tokens, and then that's kind of like their more expensive one. And then I think it was like 1/10 of a cent for 1,000 tokens when you were using what's it called? When you're using GPT 3.5 Turbo. So that's the one that's kind of designed for chat mostly. So it's minimal. I mean, today I was kind of running through all these examples and rerunning it, making sure that everything is working fine and all that. And I think I paid like 18 cents total for kind of like rerunning it over and over and playing with things and trying to make the presentation better. So yeah, so basically you will need an account with them. Once you have the account, you can set up billing. And once you set up the billing, you can actually go to the API keys and generate an API key. Once it's generated, you can just copy and use it into wherever you need it. And once it's generated, if you didn't copy it, it's kind of gone. All you can do is change the name of it. but you cannot get the key again. So if you've lost it, it's very easy. You just create a new secret key. There's not a big deal. Delete the other one, and you're good to go, right? So there are some rate limits, but there are quite lenient for the amount of kind of like stuff that you can do with this. So you wouldn't reach. So basically, this one is 90,000 tokens per minute, and I forgot what the R was. Requests per minute. So 3,500 requests. So that's quite a lot of requests that you do a minute. And yeah, so just pretty much once you get access to the backend here, it's pretty simple. They have this overview, which allows you to kind of get through a quick start tutorial as a very simple, kind of shows you playground, shows you all the options and everything. You can look through the examples. We'll get to that tab pretty soon. And then they have a lot of little kind of like through the documentation and through the examples, they have everything you need to get started. It's pretty straightforward. The other awesome thing for that you can kind of get through this backend is the playground. So in the playground, you can actually do something. So let's say I want to do a chat and I want to use GPT-4, and I just, let's say, so like I'm going to show a little bit later on, there is a kind of like a small difference between how the chat works versus the completion. In here with the chat, you'll have a system and a user and also an assistant. So the system, it's like a priming of telling the model what to be. So here, let's say today is May 4th, so Star Wars. So let's say you are a science fiction writer, if I could type. And then here, let's say generate a small Star Wars story. And then you can just play temperature, frequency, maximum length, and all these things, and then just submit it. Temperature is the one that, in my mind, it's kind of like one of the important ones. If you want to have very kind of strict and very concise text, drop the temperature, and it's and then if you increase the temperature, it's going to take a lot more kind of like risks in a way. So it's going to be, it's going to have a little bit more variance in what it outputs, but also you got to kind of keep an eye on finding the proper level for the temperature. Otherwise, you can get some weird outputs. The higher the temperature, the more chances of hallucinations and other things to happen, right? So it's a very simple thing. You just basically created this, and the nice part is that you can just go, why am I not? Okay, something's wrong. I should have been able to check view code here. Let me reload the page. I'm not entirely sure why, but I should be able to just select the view code. Oh, not for chat. Interesting. So here, if it's say hello, for example, and run it, it answers back, and then you can actually see the code. That's interesting. I didn't notice it that under the chat it doesn't allow you to. But what I was just trying to say is that you can just basically copy the code from here, make a small change where you're making sure you pass the API key, and you have what's running in the backend behind this interface, right? So it's a very kind of simple way to just kind of get started. So yeah, so that's through the interface, and you have, okay, not entirely sure what's happening, but you can look through the documentation where you have information about what you need, like text completion, fine tuning, embeddings. You can have information about each and every one of them, and they're pretty good at providing that information. Also, one endpoint that's interesting, I mean, one part of the documentation that's interesting, it's this model compatibility. So they can show you what endpoints are allowed. So like I was saying, the new one, the chat completion, allows you to do GPT-4 and then the GPT 3.5 Turbo, while the completions, just the simple completions, it sticks with the DaVinci 03. That's the kind of like the previous model before the GPT 3.5 Turbo and the GPT-4. And price-wise, the DaVinci 003, I think it's the same with the GPT-4. So there is no reason necessarily to use these older models. So, any questions? Anything? If not, I can. I'm just gonna basically start with the actual code. So again, if you guys have any questions or anything, just kind of stop me. So I usually like to put all my imports in the beginning. So these are going to be just utilities, the OS module. Then I've created my own little module to put the API key so that I don't kind of display it publicly. So I'm just importing it to be able to use it a little bit down. Then data in pandas, everybody that's familiar with data science and Python in general will see all this. These ones, display image and import HTML, are for later on being able to display an image. Well, actually, once I run the code, you'll see it. So, but this one are to display an image. Then here I was showing, I'm going to show some embeddings and the similarity, which is a good search technique right now that a lot of search engines are just kind of starting to use it. The vector databases and vector similarity, it's quite a huge thing. So I'm showing a little bit about that one. And Gradio, it's a little app that allows you to create quick interfaces, like a chat interface or any other thing for a data science project. It's kind of like very simple and easy to use. So installation-wise, they're continuously updating and releasing new versions. So if you already had OpenAI installed like I had earlier today, the moment I was trying to run some code, everything was crashing. So I had to figure out a little bit what was happening. And basically the best thing to do, even if you've kind of like worked with it before, it's best thing to upgrade. So just run it and upgrade it. So we'll just kind of go through this one by one. And basically you'll see that mine, it's already done. It's all installed, everything, all the dependencies. And just to make sure, I have this 27.6, which is the latest version, right? 27.6, 0.27.6. So once we have it done, they're using this, they're using API keys as environment variables. So just to do it that way, you know, I made my little module here and I import the API keys. And from this API keys, I take the OpenAI key and just make it into an environment variable. Then I pass it to OpenAI. So now that when we run this, OpenAI knows that the API key, it's already built in, and it's going to use this key for all the calls further down the road. The other thing that sometimes I didn't find the need for it, but they were showing in the documentation a few places. Every time you create an account, you are given an organization ID, which is a unique ID for that specific account. And sometimes they are using that one, and they're mentioning that if you work with multiple kind of like entities and you'd have multiple IDs, you would actually, by passing that one as well in this configuration, you would allow OpenAI to know exactly towards which entity or organization to pass the requests, the counting of the requests. So not entirely sure how that works. I haven't used it, but I just kind of mention it. I haven't had the need for it yet. So like I was saying, the website it's here, the platform.openai.com, and that's the one that I was kind of showing. And from there, I just wanted to make like a quick example where it's a quick question and answer bot. And this is one of the examples where I basically copy pasted. The only differences that are in there, I've introduced this input where I am passing the question, and then I'm just kind of like the way I'm printing what the responses were. So I don't know, any question. What is the diameter of Earth? Right. So sometimes it was kind of like screwing up, and I'm not entirely sure why, but this time it did it right. I had a couple of times earlier today where it just gave me a weird answer, and I don't know exactly why. So basically, what they're responding with is this JSON basically response, where you have your choices and the text. This is the part that you are interested in. Then they also are giving you all this usage, how many tokens have you used for the completion, because from what I've seen, they have a different price rate, especially in the GPT-4. I think GPT-4 was 6 cents per 1,000 completion tokens and 3 cents for the prompting tokens. So the prompting tokens would be what we passed here in the token. And in their example, they go through quite a lot of kind of like, they're quite descriptive in the sense of, I'm highly intelligent question and answering bot. If you ask me a question that's rooted in truth, I will give you the answer. And then, okay, if you ask me a question that is nonsense, trickery, or no clear answer, I will respond with unknown. And then they're passing in a few examples. What is human life expectancy in the United States? And here would be the answer. So they were just kind of priming the model or giving you the context on what should expect. Also in this example, they're using the start sequence and the restart sequence. So to use that question and answer. So let me see here. Was this one? No, sorry. Examples. I guess this is the one. So this would be their prompt, right? And they're just kind of training it a little bit, just kind of giving you the context of, hey, we're expecting question, and then you were expecting at the end for the answer to come back in here. And when you run the request, that would come back, and you need to pass. So I would need to pass the prompt, this whole long thing, then my question that I passed in here in that input, and then the restart sequence to put it back into that question answering mode, right? So the restart sequence is the question. So basically, and you see when I print it out, it's basically answering that same question answer. And every time I run it, it's gonna pass the same prompt, pick up the new question, and return the response. So it's a very simple, it's a very high level way of interacting with it, and it's very simple and direct, right? So the next step that I wanted to do is, after this example, I just wanted to go through all the endpoints that they're showing. So here. So basically models, completions, chat edits. So we're gonna go through all these one by one. So any questions at this point? Not really. Okay. So the first one is the models API. So for this one, you have basically you get the list of models that are available, and currently there are 66 models available. And again, this is all returned into a JSON, and to make it a lot easier for us to read, I just made it into this pandas data frame. So you can see the model, when was it created, and a little bit of information about it. And then here, this is one model that I pre-trained. So that's part of that list. So any models that you're training, they will be available here, as well as a lot of older and deprecated models, which it's kind of interesting because if you're trying to access some of these models, they will basically not respond. Yet they're still showing them in the list. So to me, it's almost like a historical record as well. So then the other thing that you can do in the models is basically you can retrieve information for a specific model. So if you pass the Da Vinci, or let's say, what was it, GPT-4-4, you can just get specific information for the model that you're kind of trying to use, and all that, right? So it's a very basic endpoint, not of much use besides just kind of having an idea of all the models that they have or at least they had through the API, as many of them are not current.
Hey,
Okay.
Anton, what
Yes.
are your options for dealing with models that are not responsive? You just say, oh, I didn't get a response from this one, I guess I'll ignore it from now on? Or
I'm not sure. I haven't tried it yet. So in all their calls, they are basically, if you look down here, they're asking for which model do you want. Right. So every time when you design your piece of software, you would pass the model. So that's why I'm not entirely sure. I haven't tried. Let's take this Curie struct beta. I'm not sure if this one is going to do anything, but if I pass here, I'm pretty sure this is going to crash. Oh, actually it returned, because it's the completion endpoint, and this is an older model. Okay, so I guess it's up to if you want to kind of like play with it and try to figure it out, you can just test them. And yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be too hard to make a loop that goes through all the models and passes the same question and see exactly how they answer? And especially there are some of them that well, based on this, the models and documentation models. So here, depending on the endpoint, you should be able to figure it out if it works for that endpoint or not. Right, so it's a little bit of a kind of like a grid search type thing. If you want to. So, well, my experience is that older models are not doing as well as newer models. So especially with kind of like with the generation, I mean with the text completion and the chat completions especially, it's best to stick with the GPT, the 3.5 Turbo and the 4, right? So 3.5, it's just like really fast and really cheap. So that makes it quite a good one for testing. And if you need more quality than that, you can switch to GPT-4. So that's kind of like what I would do. But so So yeah, so basically, like I was saying, this completion create endpoint, you just pass the model and you pass a prompt, and that's gonna just kind of reply. So you can put anything you want in here, like again, the story about Star Wars. Once upon a time. So this is an older model, and didn't reply too much. Your temperature is 0, so temperature is 0.8, let's say. Still not much. That's
You
why
are max tokens, right?
Oh, max token. You're right. You're right. Now we're talking. Thank you. You're gonna have multiple eyes.
Yeah, hi Anton.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Fahim.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes. Did you have a question for him?
Looks like we lost his audio.
Yes. Well, when he comes back, he can jump in.
yeah. Hello?
Hey, okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, this is Fahim. Yeah,
Hi,
I
Fahim.
have a question.
Yes, please.
I'm a hot fan of ChatGPT and rich experience with its API. Yeah, so there are 4. Yeah, as you can see on your screen. Yeah, there are border, prompt, max token, and temperature. Yeah, so 4 parameters. So let's assume that you send the request with multiple requests with the same prompt, and then the response will be different each other the same. I mean, same request and the difference response.
Yes, they. The moment you change the parameters, they will. The answers will change. So.
Yeah, but if the parameters are the same, then the response will be same.
No, well, it depends. That's what I was saying. If the temperature is dropped at 0, then the chances of generating the same response are a lot higher because it's looking for the most concise and the most higher probability, right? So the model, it's a generative model. So what's it trying to do? It's trying to predict what is the most likely next word, right? And this temperature allows it to actually not pick just the ones with the highest probability, but to have a leeway in choosing from a group of ones that have a higher probability.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you mean it depends on temperature? Yeah. So if the temperature is not 0, yeah, maybe 0.5, then the response will be different because it chooses a proper answer from maybe a group. Yeah, group of answers.
Right, and lower probabilities. It doesn't look for just the highest probability. It's looking for lower. The other one is this frequency penalty and the presence penalty. If these are basically for words, so for tokens or for words, basically. In my mind, I'm looking at tokens almost as syllables. They're not necessarily syllables, but you can kind of think of them as syllables. They're just parts of a word. They're not a full word. All right. So these ones, the frequency penalty and the presence penalty, they're just basically, if you're at 0, they're really kind of, they're not allowing the same word to show up over and over. And the higher you are, it allows that repetition. So at 0 reduces repetition, at higher levels allows repetition. So that's kind of like what these are. And the same.
Yes, thanks for your answer. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm not entirely sure the
another question. Yeah. So.
Sorry.
Yeah. Another question. Yeah. So, I think ChatGPT limits the token size. Yeah, so it is maybe 4,096 tokens. Yeah, it is the max size of token. Yeah, am I right?
Depends. GPT-4, I think they have a model that's 8,000 something, and then one that's 32,000 tokens. So the GPT
Yeah,
model,
so
the
what I want
GPT-4.
to ask you. Yeah, so what I want to ask you is to respond this so if the token is higher, yeah, I mean the token size higher, and the response will be better. Yeah, I mean the response it depends on token size.
Well, not necessarily. So if you need like a longer story or like an article, right? You will need a lot more tokens being returned.
Yeah.
But if you need like the question is, what's the diameter of the Earth? Then you need only one sentence. So you don't need too many tokens. So I guess that's where you're maximizing, and you're just kind of, when I was here, when I was doing this with the story, I'm like, okay, max tokens 128. I can go here like, I don't know, Da Vinci, I think it's like 4,000. So it's gonna create a lot longer story. I need to be more specific if I want a lot of information. Probably, I'm not sure if this one is gonna go to all 4,000 tokens. That would be pretty interesting to see. So still, it stopped. It stopped at a certain level. Yeah, so it didn't go all the way to 4,000 tokens, but if I can say here, make up a survey of Star Words, at least 1,000 words, then it will start generating something that's a lot longer, right? So that's this. It's going to take a little while. All right. So basically, this is with an older model and everything. And then that's why I was saying it's probably best to use now the chat endpoint, so the chat completion rather than just completion, because this one allows, okay, so this is, I'm not sure if this is 1,000 words, but
it's maybe 300.
Yeah, so let's see. We can do that with GPT-4, so or GPT 3.5, and in here, just an example. So this one, it's a lot kind of like in here. You're passing this prompt, while in the chat completion, you're just passing the message, because through the chat, you can actually create a history. So like I was saying earlier, you have like, in here. So you see how in here you have the system where you can actually give it some system information. Then you can do your message, and then you can just kind of get back the assistant. So if you look here, there, use the system, it's that the system information. Then the user, this is a message that the user would send in, and this would be the response. So ChatGPT basically, or whatever this completion, sees itself as the assistant, right? So in here, you can have a longer history of these messages. And you'll see in the last example how basically you can maintain that history and keep adding to it. So that way, every time you're making a call, you're able to send that history back. So the model is actually able to have an understanding of what's being talked to with, So let's see this one, what GPT 3.5 generates. So, and then we can try the same thing with GPT-4.
Anton, are you seeing the chat?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, so Jay. I have to read the chat out to you. No, yes, I need to pay attention to it. Sorry. Thanks for the reminder. So APIs are for your code to directly access the GPT models. Exactly. Plugins are a separate thing under ChatGPT. So under ChatGPT, they have a new model that allows you to actually have choose from plugins, and they're releasing more and more. And the problem with that is that they're still slowly releasing it to users. So not automatically anyone will have it. Oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention is when you are doing, when you are creating an account with them and starting, I think you're getting $18 worth of just kind of like as a trial that expires within 3 months. So those $18 go quite a long way, especially if you use like a 3.5 model, the 3.5 turbo. So, well, this one still takes forever to do it. I'm not entirely sure why it. There are ways on working with it in a streaming fashion. So I didn't add that part. I was just, oh, finally it finished. So that way you can actually get, basically get an information as long as it's, I mean, when it's generated. So yeah, so there it is. A lot better than the previous model, right? So, and if you go with GPT-4, that's going to be even better as well. So the other awesome thing about it is the translation part. So in here is basically the system message is, you're a helpful assistant that translates English to French. So right now it knows it's a translator. So once you pass some text to it, it returns in French. So demande est un autre jour. So I don't know much French. I know enough to be bad about it, but basically this is a correct translation. And this other one you can do like it's basically like a question and answer. So you can pass some sort of, I mean, you're passing your helpful assistant. This seems to be like the default system message. And I think under GPT-4, they're mentioning that the system role, it's not taken in consideration as much as it should be. So it doesn't have as much weight as it should be. And I guess they're working on for the next release to actually increase its power. So basically, content, this is another example from them. So LA Dodgers won the World Series in 2020 and where it was played. So Tampa Bay Rays at Globe Field in Arlington, Texas. I'm not sure. I'm not a baseball fan, so if you guys know it, this is the answer. So I'm not entirely sure if it's correct or not. Other options. So these are from other endpoints with a little bit older models. So this is a model. I guess we can look for it when it was. So in April of 2022, so about a year ago, seems to be doing where are you? Here it is. Seems to do a pretty good editing, where it's just kind of figure out the what, day, and week are spelled wrong and fix them. And then here I actually, still has the translation possibility, and you can pass multiple things in the instruction. So I wanted to fix the spelling mistakes and capitalize, then translate to French. So the same type thing. It's done a pretty good job of it. The other one that's interesting, but it's definitely nowhere near where Midjourney and other models are, but it's still good to know of it, and I'm sure that they are still working on it, and they're generating. I am basically creating this kittens playing with puppies, and in here is the M parameter. You can pass more than one, so you could have multiple generations. You can do edits, you can do other things, you can mask and add things to it. So it's a lot more powerful than what I'm just showing here. It's just, I would rather do Midjourney, where, okay, there it is, it's loading it. So this is what it generated, which is not that bad, you know. So puppies and kittens. This one, which I think it's one of the most powerful, especially that embeddings are so useful nowadays, and they're affecting how computers understand real world things. Anybody that doesn't know what embeddings are?
Yeah, could you explain?
I don't know.
Okay. So basically, embeddings are a vector representation of not just a word. So for example, in ChatGPT, right? So for a language model, you have the word color. Color can be multiple contexts, right? So they've created these algorithms that are able to take the word color plus the entire context of that word color and embed it into a vector, which is basically a list of numbers. So it's more than just the word. That's the beauty of it. It has a deeper understanding of that, of the meaning of that word or a sentence, or and used to be just a word. Now you can take a sentence, you can take a paragraph, you can take so a lot of the new search models nowadays use these embeddings, where rather than just looking for a certain word, a certain keyword, you're looking for an understanding of your whole sentence, right? So when you ask a question, it takes that whole sentence and creates an embedding for it, and then looks through everything that it has in as a record in a database for anything that has a similarity closer to that, because it understands, it basically encodes the meaning of the question, and the meaning of the answer would be very close to it. So that way they're able to just give you a better answer back. We can, if you guys want, we can make a presentation about embeddings. And nowadays embeddings are used not only for text, they're used for images, and with Facebook doing image segmentation, where they're able to break an image in what's actually inside that image and be able to create embeddings for each and every one of those segments. Now it's a lot easier to understand that, hey, this image and this image are quite similar, right? So it's like if you look in like Google's image search, if you pass an image, they're pretty much doing this. They're just generating embeddings, and they're looking for other images which have embeddings that are similar. So those vectors, those vectors are similar, so they're looking for the ones that are the closest. So in here, if we run through this, this is an embedding basically. So it's just a series of numbers, very long series of numbers. I think the embeddings generated by OpenAI are 1500 something long. It's a list with 1500 elements, right? So what I was trying to do here, basically, I was looking at these two sentences, and that's another thing. When you pass to this endpoint, for which they have a specific model, so this embeddings ADA embedding ADA 002 is their latest for embeddings. And basically, I passed this whole sentence, and this was the embedding for it, right? But you also can pass a list with multiple embedding or multiple sentences. And here, as an example, I have this one, and if I run this, you'll see the similarity. It's about 0.75. So at 1, they are identical. So if I go here and I say cat and dog, I'm getting a 0.86. But if I go cat and kitten, it's a lot closer in similarity, right? So it's just these models, I mean, especially the text embedding, this is more geared towards sentences than just unique words. So it's trained more on sentences, so it does better on actual longer sentences than just one word. I mean, these are very similar, and it should be a lot higher than this. So there are other models that you can use for embeddings, and like here, skiing and snowboarding, it figured out they're both sports and they're very similar to one another, right? While these ones are not as similar. And this is a very fast mathematical operation to create this cosine similarity or cosine distance between the two vectors. So that's why these newer vector databases and search engines use it quite a lot, because you can do millions of operations, if not billions of operations per second to figure it out, to search for similar things, right? So this is an older model. Again, this is it's not deprecated, but it's an older model, and it does kind of gives different numbers, which I guess depend on your user case. Cat and dog, it found that these are more similar than the other one did. And let's see what it does for skiing and snowboarding. It found them less similar than the previous model did. So this, I would not use this one. I just wanted to show it. That's another available option. So this would be that one. And there right now a lot of other services, a lot of other models that allow you to do embeddings. And you can Hugging Face allows you to. There are quite a lot of open source models that you can train on your own data, and that way you would be able to have more precise similarities and all these searches. So that's that. And we did this. Audio. This was another one that I thought it was very interesting, and it's quite correct. This Whisper model is great, and I will have to try and play, and let me see if you guys are able to hear.
My dear Fanny, you feel these things a great deal too much. I am most happy that you like the chain.
Were you guys able to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it did an awesome job. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, right? Now, I have another one that also allows you to do translation straight from audio. So basically, I've got this one.
Je m'appelle Isabelle et je voulais vous raconter une action que nous faisons tous les ans dans mon village. C'est le ramassage des déchets. D'habitude, il a lieu fin mars.
So this is a little bit longer model, but again, I was quite impressed. I understood. I mean, I really paid attention and was able to translate the first 2 sentences, and it's really right on the money. So basically, hello, my name is Isabel, and I want to tell you about an action we do every year in my village. It is the collection of waste. So that's exactly what the first 2 sentences are in there. So this is very useful. A lot of applications, a lot of the stuff for transcribing videos, right? Like YouTube videos to make closed captioning for them. So there are a lot of applications of this Whisper model and API. So this is the last example that I wanted to show you, where kind of like we're going to go through it. We start with the message history, right? And I got it from this example. It's on YouTube. He goes through a lot more detail than I will go through in here, but he makes this one into a joke bot. Then he's asked whatever you pass in, it will return a joke based on the words that were passed in. And so what's he doing here is every time you are passing kind of like a message, when you make a request, it will append it to the message history, right? So that way, so here, right? So whenever you add and whenever you get a message back, it will be appended to this message history. That way, every time it's sent back, you have the history of it all. For this joke bot, it doesn't matter. But if you're having kind of like a longer set of questions, for example, if you have like a bigger chunk of text that you want to ask different questions on, it's very important to have that history because that's the content. So in here, this is basically the Gradio functionality to just create the UI. So if you run this, we can run it locally. I mean, you can open it up on its own UI, but let's say here, so the one that I thought it was pretty funny, it was standard tests. I think this is, they're pretty, kind of, the jokes are not, yes, exactly. The jokes are not that bad. I thought not that good, but I thought this was pretty good. So why did the math book look so sad? Because it had too many problems. So basically, this is it. I know we passed the hour that we had kind of like set up for it, but unless you guys are in a rush, we can have Q&As and we can still chat. So,
well, Anton, in this context, I got a question. So since you're chaining your responses.
Yes.
So does it mean that the next question you ask or next joke suggestion you make, it's going to take into account what it has been said earlier?
Yes, it will. So that's why I was saying, for this one where we're looking for unique jokes, it doesn't matter much. But if you are, like I was saying, if you have a bigger, you're passing in this message history, the system, in the context, or you pass as the first, not the assistant, the first user, you have a bigger chunk of text, let's say that you want to summarize or you want to ask a certain question on that chunk of text, it matters because it will keep it as every message will have that history in there, right? So now the one thing that you guys got to keep in mind when you do something like that is that the more text you add, every time you're making those calls to the API, you're adding and repeating the tokens, right? So messages can go out of hand both cost-wise and token-wise pretty quickly. So, but for a simple thing,
when you're saying that the system, you're declaring something as a system, is that kind of optional or you're picking from a set of options? For instance, here you said role as a role system.
So there are three main roles. The system is the actual system. So you can see them in here. Where was it? Here, right? So if you go to the chat, there's a system role. So the system role is you tell the chatbot, you tell GPT basically, what should he be? You are an assistant, or earlier I was saying you are a translator, right? Then as a user, you are the user. So you're saying, you're sending the message. And then when the message comes back an assistant. So the assistant is the actual ChatGPT. So these are the three users: system, user, and assistant, right?
So my question is, system, do you have the option of, or is it kind of quote unquote drop down? You have to pick from a set.
No. You just pass it. So here you choose which one you want. So here the guy basically wanted, hey, I am priming the system. I'm providing this context to the system that it's a joke bot and it will answer in a certain way, right? Then in order to, so the way he was explaining it, I'm not sure if it's still valid in GPT-4, but sometimes it, like I was saying, it would ignore or actually, yes, it's still happening with GPT-4, it will ignore the system. It would not give it enough weight. And by adding this line here, this was just like a trick that the guy did when it said that, hey, you already said okay, that you understood what your system should be. So it's kind of like a reinforcing of the system, this part here.
Oh, got it.
Right? So this is just
how is this different in ChatGPT? For instance, you say you are a counselor, or you are something or the other, to kind of prime it, right? That's what you're doing here.
Yes. So here, this one, you are a joke bot, or in the example that they're giving here, you are a helpful assistant. Or earlier when I was doing a translation, I did something where you are a translator. Where did I do it? You're a helpful assistant that translates English to French. You just pass it, you just tell it, hey, this is your role. Think of it from that standpoint.
So the equivalent, similarly in ChatGPT, you can do a kind of a few short training. You can give a couple of examples and say,
yes,
you want to.
Yes.
How do you do that here?
The same thing through these messages. And like this first example, the first example that I was showing, what was it? Examples here, the Q&A. So this is basically what they've done here. Oops, sorry.
So it's in the prompt. Got it.
It's in the prompt. Yes, exactly.
Got it.
You just pass it in the prompt. If you wanted to answer only this type of way, you can actually go and do a fine-tuned model where you create 2,000 or 3,000 of these question and answer formats and format them in a certain way, upload them as a file, and then take one of the models and train it on that file. And then the model is going to basically answer just exactly like this Q&A with it expects a question and outputs it exactly like this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I will. I will share it. I will put it in the comments for the meetup.
Are you talking about
sorry. Yeah, there was a thing here. Somebody asked in a chat if I could share the Python notebook. So yes, I will. I will put it in the comments a little bit later on tonight. So, any other questions?
Hey, Anton.
Yes.
Does this OpenAI platform offer any tools or API endpoints to work with like with raw data, like for forecasting or numbers analysis, or it's all about language?
This one is mostly about language. I saw something where I didn't follow it. I need to look at it. But somebody made some sort of an interface between ChatGPT and Pandas, where you have a Pandas data frame and you ask literal questions, and based on that, it processes that data.
Also, Excel, the Excel 365 or whatever, it has Copilot in there, and you can ask questions about the data that's in your spreadsheet.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Wow, that's already available.
I haven't used it, but yeah, as far as that's what the articles I read said. So.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, if anybody has any other questions? Okay.
There was some stuff I wanted to mention real quick, if that's all right.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, you go ahead, G. You go ahead.
No, just if you're gonna have like a comment section at the end, and I'll do it then. But
Well, no, I'm done, and I'm just basically right now. If anybody has any comments, questions.
okay, I just wanted to. A lot of people might already know this, but I think today or yesterday, I'm not sure. Bing Chat. It used to be you had to sign up for it and get on a wait list and stuff, but they made it freely available to anybody that has a Microsoft account. And they're free. You can just make it and throw it away if you don't want to use it, if you don't have a Microsoft account. And it is using GPT-4 and it's free. So up until now, you've needed to pay some way to get access to GPT-4, at least as far as I know.
Were you able to play with it?
Yeah, it's great. Yep.
Okay.
And you can do it on your phone too. I can talk to my phone and tell it to like, I told it to like make an image of a spacecraft orbiting Jupiter, and it did. Made
Really?
4. Yeah, it was great.
So they open up the multimodal part.
It's hooked up to Dolly and all that. Yeah, pretty cool.
Okay.
Now it's not API, it's not directly related.
Yeah, just the chat.
It's just the chat, yeah. But it's
Right.
the latest, greatest stuff, and it's for free. So just
That's
wanted to
it,
let
yeah.
Hey, Jay, can you repeat that? Where, or can you type in the chat where to find that?
I don't even. It's the Bing app for the phone. It's the Bing app, you know, which I assume is on Android and iPhone.
Yeah, if you have Microsoft Edge and if you have an account and you're signed in, then you can see the Bing.
Yeah, you just go to
Bing
Bing.com.
logo and you click on that, and it's pretty much the chat now. The Bing chat is, in the back end, it's GPT-4.
And I think they also upped the limits. It used to have pretty tight limits of you could only ask, your conversation could only be 5 questions long, and it had a cap of 50 questions in a day, and they bumped it up to 20 per conversation and 200 total for the day. So they quadrupled the amount you can do for free. So I mean, cool to play around with and just see what the capabilities are,
Exactly. So what I wanted to mention is that ACM will have their in-person meetup next, when was it? On the 17th.
17th, May 17th.
Exactly. So if you guys want to kind of go, it's going to be a really nice presentation. And what we're trying to do because our next one is going to be on the 18th. So we were thinking about basically talking about exactly what the presentation was, and just kind of analyze a little bit and have a discussion more on the presentation from the 17th, from Wednesday. So
yeah, to add, Anton, the presentation is on LLMs.
Yes, I know. So the presentation is on LLMs and how do they work and everything, and we can just kind of have more of a discussion here on the presentation. So that's what I was thinking. So anybody has any other questions or?
I think I just wanted to say something really quick about what you and I had kind of talked about kind of going forward for like topics and stuff like that. Like I said earlier, before Anton started, he's going to be doing things remote. I'll be doing things in person. I'm honestly pretty busy, so I'm not going to be doing the in-person ones at like a super high rate, every couple months or so. And I just was going to give it, I think we're going to do kind of a mix. Previously a lot of our ones were very technical. They were all Jupyter notebooks and stuff like that. Now there's clearly much more of like a user right? I mean, with all this prompt engineering and stuff like that, it's a little bit more kind of in user land. So I think we're probably going to be doing a mix of kind of those technical deep dives and also just kind of a more user, like here's cool things you can do, that kind of thing, kind of hitting both. Because I think there's kind of interest in all those areas for both, you know, kind of technical people, but also for more casual. It's going to affect everybody, right? So for later in the summer, or you know, in the summer, I think the first thing I would do an in-person one on is I'm thinking I'm going to do a talk on transformers, which is kind of the underlying technology of all of this new stuff that's coming out, all the stable diffusion, GPT, all that stuff's running on transformers. That's my current thoughts, but please give feedback, you know, comments on the Meetup page. You can put comments on there of just, you know, topics that you'd be interested in seeing. That's pretty much it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey, I just put the OCACN presentation on May 17th, put the link out there. It's on Meetup as well. Feel free to sign up. I think it will be a great foundation presentation about the overall language model. And David, you mentioned earlier that you're the person to contact if somebody from the group wants to present. How can you repeat what's the best way to reach out to you to propose presentation?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be me. Anyone of
Right.
Anton or Jay or you, Ansel, or me or Beth are good to reach out to, but I wanted to put my name out there specifically in case people didn't know. Probably the easiest way is to send a message through the Meetup page.
Yes. Right. Yeah, that way everybody's going to have access to, and we'll try to answer as quickly as possible. Okay. Well, this was great, guys. Thank you so much. And looking forward for the next one.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anton.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys. You too.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.